Halo olaketa nene blomi Alice Lolohea. Welcome lo Displa Pacific Show and welcome to our special host this week.
Ni sambula vinaka oyal Chrisnrita Aumanu-Leong. Alice, it's so great to be here.
We're so used to seeing you on the screens from Solomon Islands. It's nice to have you here in all your glory in studio.
You know what? It's actually been really nice getting pampered in the makeup chair.
And have everyone fuss over you. You also got to go on ABC News Breakfast.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I do crosses into their show a lot, but I've never met them in person. So in the real Pacific way, it was great to meet face to face.
I love this for you, girl. Let's check out what's coming up on the show.
Growing backlash as Fijian MPs push for pay increase.
President Macron came and then left. What now for Kanaki, New Caledonia?
And the larger-than-life faces of PNG, Lesley Wengembo, paints a picture of his life and his art.
First, the fallout from a disastrous landslide in Papua New Guinea's Inga province continues. There's been growing confusion over the number of dead as aid is slowly beginning to make its way to those affected. And as Belinda Kora reports, political turmoil isn't helping.
This is a very unprecedented natural disaster.
These are the faces of grief. In Yambali village, mourners bury the dead.
I don't know what to do, because this is not a problem caused by humans. All these people are buried underground. Our houses and gardens have all been destroyed, and I wonder how the ones living will go on surviving.
People and buildings were covered under a wall of earth that came down from the hill above in the dead of night.
This disaster happened at 3 a.m. while we were asleep, shocking the entire village. It destroyed everything we had. We still haven't confirmed the exact number of bodies buried underground.
The site remains dangerous, but villagers are reluctant to leave while loved ones remain under the rubble.
Boys are struggling to get those dead bodies.
The land is still coming down.
So how does part of a mountain simply collapse?
When you look at it in Google Earth, there seems to be some unfavourable structure, geological structure in the rock. So a rock slide would be a reasonable description. PNG is very susceptible to landslides because of its geology and geomorphology, being on a plate boundary between the Pacific plate and the Australian plate. So these types of events are not uncommon. This is a disaster because it impacted houses and the road. There would have been very little warning. People would have been sleeping. It would have been upon them and very quickly. So the chance of evacuation would have been very small.
While it seems little could have been done to prevent the disaster, relief is only arriving slowly.
Since the road's been blocked, government aid seems to be far away, and I'm worried and confused.
Access to the area for government and other agencies is quite difficult. From the provincial authorities, collectively, the number of people that have been affected by this disaster are around 7,840.
All Papua New Guineans are suffering in the wake of this terrible disaster, and we hold them in our hearts.
Australian defence personnel have arrived to assist, and others like China and the US have also offered aid. But amidst the grief, there's also confusion. Papua New Guinean officials told the UN the landslide buried 2,000 people alive.
People will have to accept the fact that many thousands of people have been buried alive, women and children.
Other reports say 160 or so are confirmed dead, with more missing, and the UNDP meanwhile remains unsure, but estimates 670 people have been killed.
We are asking the government and anybody, the government houses or business houses, please, we need your intervention right now.
The disaster site's remote location, the lack of equipment needed to retrieve the dead, and an ongoing political crisis are making matters worse.
Prime Minister, Honorable James Marape, Long, look, Lord, this last. Somebody say me not look him. Every can come here. Now looking. Now walking my assessment blogan.
But in PNG's capital, Port Moresby, Political turmoil is proving an unwelcome distraction.
Well, Prime Minister Marape has offered his condolences to victims of the disaster in a written statement. It took him almost a week to comment further. Eventually, he announced he would visit the site.
Nature, through a disastrous landslide, submerged or covered the village.
The Prime Minister and the ministers are preoccupied with vote of no confidence. That possibly explains why the PNG government hasn't responded to the disaster in the way many had expected.
Because of the timing of the vote of no confidence that's taking precedent, we must not forget that there has been a very big natural disaster.
The opposition bloc says it's yet another reason for their challenge.
The incident in Enga reinforces what I've been arguing about, more than 2 years now.
You look at what's happening right now in Port Moresby is that you got police and security forces providing security within the city for the vote of no confidence. This security apparatus should be all focused on responding to disaster.
Enga has been hit by a wave of tribal violence in recent times and unrest that has left hundreds of people dead.
I think the local factors at the moment with the civil unrest and the tribal disputes is playing a big role in hampering the relief effort.
8 people were reportedly killed in the last week from violence unrelated to the disaster, but the unrest means aid convoys can only travel by daylight due to security concerns.
It's hard to know exactly what comes next. With small farms and livestock destroyed, it's clear that the survivors of Yambali will need help for some time. 3 streams villagers use for water have also been buried by the landslide.
There's little food and water. We're hungry and asking for your help. We're not even sleeping at night. We're afraid that more of the mountain will slide down and it will kill us all.
The ABC's Foreign Affairs reporter, Stephen Jejits, is in Port Moresby. Hello, Stephen.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Let's get into it. There's still a lot of confusion around the death toll. What's making it so hard to get clear information?
Look, there are a couple of things to bear in mind here. The first is that this is a really remote and inaccessible part of Papua New Guinea. It's not lightly populated, but getting there is quite difficult. Officials don't always have the best data, even at a local level, at their fingertips. When you put on top of that all of the chaos that was understandably in the village in the wake of this catastrophe, the difficulties of moving through the area, even by foot at the moment, the fact that roads have been cut off, it really is an extremely difficult and vexed picture. Now, on top of that, Alice, of course, you've also got this question about broader evacuations or relocations. PNG officials are really worried that some villages in surrounding areas are also vulnerable to further landslides and landslips. So some officials saying that some 8,000 or perhaps 10,000 people in the immediate area may need to be moved, relocated either temporarily or permanently from their homes. But either way, it's going to be a massive and draining logistical operation that's going to place really severe strains on the resources of Papua New Guinea's government as it's still grappling with the magnitude of this calamity.
You mentioned the government there. It seems like momentum is building around a possible vote of no confidence in Prime Minister James Marape. What's led to this?
I think the opposition spotted a bit of an opportunity here. Clearly, they've been chipping away at Mr Marape's support base, and I think the opposition was trying to capitalise on pretty widespread unhappiness, particularly perhaps here in the capital of Port Moresby, but also across all of Papua New Guinea about inflation in particular, the price of goods. Even if Mr Marape does manage to hold firm, there's no doubt that this challenge has been an assault upon his authority. He says that he can emerge all the stronger with a more disciplined team, but the timing of this political turmoil, of course, has been deeply unfortunate, coming as it has right when the country has been focused and its administrators have been trying to focus on this disaster in Enga and trying to bring the resources to government to bear to help those in need.
That's all we have time for. Malo Alpito, Stephen.
Now back to New Caledonia, where the recent unrest seems to be easing after a fleeting 18-hour visit from French President Emmanuel Macron. While the state of emergency has ended and the TikTok ban has been lifted, the president's whistle-stop tour has done little to break the political impasse. Macron refused to withdraw the controversial electoral roll changes which sparked the conflict, only promising not to pass them by force. Meanwhile, as political negotiations continue, everyday citizens are still dealing with supply shortages.
Oui, Sullivan. Sullivan, c'est celui-là. C'est ça. Ok, ça marche. Et donc on a des commerçants qui ouvrent, des grossistes qui rouvrent, mais le manque de salariés empêche la livraison des marchandises, et c'est là où le gouvernement du coup organise en partenariat et conjointement avec les commerçants et les grossistes des circuits pour prioriser les zones où on manque cruellement de nourriture et où les commerces ont les stocks les plus bas. Ça s'est un peu réduit aujourd'hui, mais ça reste encore très difficile. Et on se rend compte qu'il y a des zones qui ne sont toujours pas approvisionnées. Alors pour deux raisons, soit par un manque de sécurité qui fait que même le gouvernement ne peut pas y aller. C'est des zones encore comme les quartiers nord de Nouméa. Donc c'est des groupes de 20 personnes qui rentrent pour éviter les effets d'émeute et les effets de foule dans le supermarché. Donc les gens attendent et ils rentrent 20 par 20. Donc on va sur le parking des groupes de 20 personnes qui attendent les uns après les autres, avec un temps limité à l'intérieur pour permettre à tout le monde de pouvoir s'approvisionner. Sachant qu'il y a une sorte de rationnement qui s'est mis en place, qui est propre à chaque magasin. Et en général, c'est pas plus de 2 produits identiques chacun et pas de caddie. Il faut tout porter avec ses cabas pour assurer le plus d'équité possible entre les différents clients.
As some normalcy returns, businesses finally have time to count the cost.
Je suis propriétaire d'une menuiserie aluminium qui emploie 21 personnes, principalement des Mélanésiens et des Océaniens. Notre entreprise a été victime d'exactions il y a à peu près 4 jours, quand 2 jeunes de 15 ans sont rentrés et ont commencé à essayer de brûler. On a été sauvés par nos voisins mélanésiens qui sont intervenus, les ont chassés et ensuite avec des tuyaux d'eau ont réussi à éteindre l'incendie. Et puis depuis, j'ai des salariés qui vivent sur place dans la journée, qui dorment sur place le soir pour essayer de protéger leur outil de travail et leur emploi. C'est désolant, c'est écœurant. C'est pas la même population. On les voit dans la rue, on peut parler avec eux, ils sont pas agressifs. Ils se rendent juste pas compte qu'ils sont en train de scier la branche sur laquelle on est tous assis et qu'ils sont en train de détruire la Calédonie. Oui, donc l'économie de la Calédonie, il faut pas se leurrer, elle se portait pas bien avant les émeutes. On était déjà en situation de quasi-faillite. Là, ça y est, je pense qu'on a touché le fond et les montants de la reconstruction sont tels que sans l'aide de l'État français, sans le pilotage de l'État français, on s'en sortira pas.
But amidst the devastation, communities continue to pull together.
Ça s'est bien passé et on peut saluer le courage des salariés qui sont venus, des entrepreneurs qui ont dû tout réorganiser, penser à un schéma de crise, mais aussi des Calédoniens qui ont fait preuve de beaucoup de solidarité, beaucoup de civisme pour éviter qu'il y ait des émeutes, et ça s'est très bien passé alors qu'on avait parfois jusqu'à 5 heures de queue devant les supermarchés vendredi dernier.
Très beaucoup même. On a des gens même qui rentrent dans les magasins avec leur famille qui nous donnent même la main pour remplir les rayons. Voilà.
So, while some peace is restored, talks over the territory's future remain highly contested. We caught up with FLNKS spokesperson Jimmy Nauna to discuss the visit and a suggestion the controversial electoral roll reforms could go to a referendum across the whole French Republic.
We consider it as dangerous for New Caledonia, current situation, that just like adding fuel to the fire, and that could destabilize further, the situation in New Caledonia. We were expecting Macron to make some strong commitment for the French government to suspend the electoral reform bill, and two, to send in this high-level independent mission. So some was a bit disappointed. So at this point in time, after Macron's visit, the Africa is still considering. We've started the talk since last year, but it came to the standstill when the Macron government started taking sides, hoping that we can get back to the table and pick up again on the political talks for the new political agreement. It's important that we reach this political agreement because that will be the next step after the Nouméa Accord, and for us, it's setting out a new pathway towards a new referendum on independence and opening up for us a transition period towards independence. The coming provincial elections, for which this electoral roll is to be reviewed, has been postponed and deferred until December this year or next year, can also be deferred to next year. So we have 6 months ahead of us that we should make use of to conclude these political talks and agree on a new political agreement on the way forward.
To Fiji now, where there's been a backlash following a vote in Parliament to approve a 130% pay rise for MPs.
This motion is therefore agreed to.
The pay rise will cost Fijian taxpayers $1.2 million a year. And it's drawn criticism for coming when everyday Fijians are grappling with the cost of living crisis. Minister Linda Tambuya, chairperson of the committee who spearheaded the bill, said that public criticism comes with the job.
I make no excuse in terms of what has been passed last week. It's a parliamentary process and the public has every right to criticize.
The new salaries will see the president earn over $124,000 a year. The pay for ordinary MPs will rise from just over $33,000 to $64,000. And Prime Minister Sitiveni Rabuka will be paid just over $220,000. Finance Minister and National Federation Party leader Biman Prasad and his 4 members voted against the motion.
We cannot support the recommendations.
The parliamentarians are voting on their own salary increases, which is not the best way to approach. In Australia and New Zealand, there are independent committees that decide. It's not put to the MPs themselves.
Following widespread criticism, Prime Minister Rabuka said the pay increases have yet to be finalised, but could happen at a later date. The pay rise discussion is threatening to destabilize both sides of the House. To unpack this all, let's head to Suva and we're joined by our Fijian reporter, Mbula Lide.
Bulavinaka Chrissy, it's good to see you there in Melbourne.
Great to see you as well. Firstly, besides high cost of living, why has giving MPs a pay rise caused so much unease in Fiji?
Chrissy, 1/3 of our population lives in poverty, and we already have a lot of essential jobs like teachers and nurses calling for a pay increase. Now, this government did increase our minimum wage, but it's still considered very low. But Chrissy, there's also been a little bit of political mischief. There's a lot of misinformation going out there. What happened on Friday was not a vote for a pay rise. Instead, it was a vote to endorse a report that is calling for a pay review, Chrissy.
There's reports also that the proper legal process for salary increases were not being followed. So does this make the motion invalid?
No, that motion was quite valid, Chrissy. However, the bigger question now is, what about the processes ahead of us? So now it's on the government's court to actually bring a law back to Parliament. And there's some processes involved there too, which include public scrutiny and public input before they can bring a bill back to Parliament for debate.
We've also heard, Lesley, that Prime Minister Rambuka is threatening action. So what happens now?
I think that's been the most exciting and probably interesting implications of this pay review fiasco, Chrissy, is watching the way that both sides of Parliament is imploding. On the side of the opposition, the Fiji First Party, there had been rumors of a power struggle and division within the party, and now we're watching that play out on social media. And on the side of the government, we have the Prime Minister issuing what seems like a veiled threat. Now, the most drastic action that he could take is to basically make all 5 National Federation MPs backbenchers. But Chrissy, that is something that's pretty drastic and probably not something that the Prime Minister wants to do, given that the NFP hold quite a lot of power in what is already a very fragile coalition, Chrissy.
Lesley, that's all we have time for. Vinava Levu Wantok.
Vinaa.
Now, Chrissy, you know what one of my life goals is?
What is it, Alice? Is it to get married?
Wow, shots fired. No, actually, it's to get my portrait painted.
Oh, what? Like, is that in Titanic, like Jack or Rose? Or maybe you want to be painted by Lesley Wengembo, the incredible PNG artist.
Yeah, the latter is a bit more preferable. And after a lot of difficult news out of PNG recently, we're very pleased to bring you this story about Lesley Wengembo, an artist famous for his photorealistic portraits.
Lesley recently finished a massive mural at the Hilton in Port Moresby. We got to see and meet with the artist during its creation.
This mural is a 5.1 by 23 meters long. Of course, it's the biggest I've ever done in my life, I'll say. Approximately, I got like 4 weeks. Yeah, 4 weeks to finish it. Imagine this. And to go hyper-realistic, man. Yeah, I'll be busy. I'll be so busy. This is public space, like especially Hilton. You know, it's amazing. People come everywhere in the world, not just only nationally, but internationally, and start to see the work, you know, available for everyone. It's about family. Family is, I'll say it's relatable to everyone, you know.
Growing up, I grew up in Port Moresby, and I don't have much about like my culture, and that's kind of thing that I was separating me from it. But when I first met my grandfather, when we talk and stuff, it's like I knew my culture already because it's in this blood, and that kind of, in a way, it inspires me to create faces, portraiture, and especially creating old, you know, faces of old people.
I'm representing like an elderly guy, and a woman, a mother, and then a kid. So it's just 3 generations of people, and they will represent family.
You know I got the hookup, holla if you hear me. Don't be getting scared around me, please express.
How do you take something small and make it proportionate to the wall?
There's so many ways of doing it. Like some people they create it, or some people they project it, some images on top of the. But what I do now is like I did this technique. It's a really new type of technique. I'm gonna take a picture of this, just this 2 blocks of wall, and then I'm gonna add my image on top of it, and then on top of it, and then I'll see where I'm gonna put my lines on and stuff, and I'll add my reference point, and then I'll join the dots.
I'm also part of the mural itself, like family and the culture that I want to convey is we are part of it. But the thing is that I also wanted to show it that, you know, we're losing that thing, our culture, slowly. So, but that's what it's a secret thing about this. Like when you look at the younger kid, you know, he's looking up with hope for a few, like it's something about that. So that's what I wanted to show in there, and then that's what I want to reflect on myself as a person, that I also lost this thing. I lost my language and our culture and the way of life in this contemporary. So that's what I wanted to also show in this. So yeah, I'm currently working on this. So this is the image, and you can see that's the whole thing right there. So I'm working on this reference. Like the image is from Madang province and up in Boni Road in the Ramu Valley. Yeah. Where they actually right now there's a mining up there. I wanted to combine all of these people from different provinces, bringing it as a whole as PNG, you know. Yeah. About celebrating PNG and our culture.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you have it. Star Mountain, Assam.
Oh man, that thing behind me is amazing. It also promotes our culture as a Papua New Guinean. Papua New Guinea is made up of many different cultures, more than 800 languages, different beliefs, different personalities. It's deeply rooted in the culture, but at the same time it speaks a generation of, passing of traditions. I think it reflects Papua New Guinea as a ever-changing society.
They say the eyes are the soul to a person, so this speaks volumes of where these people come from and where we come from.
Because I've only seen the ocean of it, and now to see everything together is just, I'm speechless. But to see the reaction of people to it, it's priceless, yeah. Only thing I was just showing my hands, I'm goosebumps, because it's like, I've never done anything that, that huge. That's something that I felt like, I wanted to convey with my art. My work had also played some part in our society, like, now that we're going through so many crises or so many things, affecting our reputation, and I hope that I play a little part of it to at least bring some positives to our country. And that's if I do that, then I think I did my job that I'll be happy about. Yeah.
You know what, Chrissy? It's been an honour to have a co-host here who doesn't mock me all the time.
Who said I'm not going to mock you? Don't worry, I still have time to do that. But I've had a lot of fun hosting with you as well, Alice. I just wish that I could join you next week in Hawaii.
Yes, it's true. Chrissy has let the cat out of the bag. We'll be broadcasting from Honolulu, Hawaii for the Festival of Pacific Arts next week. See you then.
Tō whāsoi fua.